Like if you have a virtual person,
A
that
virtual
is
relationship.
just, let's say they're your perfect match,
Yeah.
physically, personality wise, in every way.
And you could certainly design
With
it
the
that
snap
way.
of a finger, you can go into this world and they're right there all the time. Do you think that will hurt people's relationships in the real world? Welcome to the Millennial Experience podcast. I am your host, Luke Adamson.
And I'm Eddie Ambrose.
My co-host. And today we're going to talk about...
Oh, the future of, what's a good word for it? Media. Like how we take our video games and our movies and our TV shows. I was thinking, well, just use video games right now for an example. But since we have video games now to the Oculus level, which is like you are the player.
Mm-hmm.
For you, is it impossible to think that our movie experiences will go there too? In a sort of Oculus
like
environment?
VR style movies?
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
And like, what do you think that like be like? Like for example, let's say not everyone can afford this. It's like you still go to this Oculus theater and you hook up with everyone else is hooked up. Like you could do this at your home, I guess. But we'll talk about that later. That's a separate conversation. But like, what do you
think? By
think?
the time it gets to that point, there's not going to be movie theaters. That's what I think.
Yeah.
And I think just with COVID alone, it's shown us that the world is probably going to shift away from people going out and doing things in big groups.
Right. And I think it'll also make it like an easier transition now that people are like more comfortable with staying home.
Yeah. But it's going to be at the point where already the Oculus is like you can set up your Oculus and it just feels like you're in a room that isn't your own room with all these different, aspects of virtual world around you. And it's just right in your own living room. So I think when these movies come out or TV shows or whatever it is, it'll be like you're right there in the environment watching it all around you happening.
Right.
Like imagine Saving Private Ryan, but you're on the beach.
Right.
Like running forward with everybody.
I was imagining that. I'm not sure if you've done it in Universal Studios a couple years ago when I went. There's this ride where you are on a bus. You're kind of touring the Universal studio set.
Uh-huh.
And they drive you into this like it looks like a garage for the bus. But inside are like screens, and what happens is like you're in the trees and King Kong is fighting like the T-Rexes around the thing, the bus that you're on. And so like they move over the top of it into the left side, and then like at a certain point like the bus is hanging on branches and it's sideways, and obviously you're upright, but it feels like you're sideways. And so this is going to be crazy for things that were like things that take you underwater and stuff, or into the sky or into space. Oculus is going to be just insane.
Well, and imagine once it gets to like 4D, like I don't know if you read Ready Player One, but it goes into a lot of detail about the haptic suits. Yeah. And like, for instance, let's say you're watching a movie, and you're there in the forest with these two elves or whatever. Mm-hmm. You can actually walk over to the stream and scoop some water up in your hand, and you'll feel the water. Your hands will feel wet. Right. And you'll be able to like splash it on your arm, or walk up to one of the elves and like grab them, and you'll feel them in your hands, like they're really there with you.
Or maybe like to the different fabrics and stuff. Mm-hmm. That'd be insane. I mean, considering, let's go ahead.
It's not too crazy to think that they'll be able to create some kind of either haptic suits that allow you to feel through the suit itself, giving you those sensations, or probably more likely some kind of like neural link type system that actually is triggering inside your brain these things happening, and those feelings directly from your brain into your conscious mind.
Right, without being in that suit.
You may not even need like goggles or anything at a certain point. It may just be like some kind of implant that you can switch on, and you're there inside of that program.
Right. I agree with you where just like in Ready Player One where they go into the detail and filling the water, it makes sense that we would try to get there considering the progression of media in the first place. Like the very first sort of art forms or things you did as far as illustrations went were the cave drawings. Mm-hmm. And that's replicating the world that you saw around you. It wasn't perfect, but you could tell that it was a replication of it. And so when you look at pictures and portraits, our cartoons, TV shows, like cartoons about animals, these are personifications that we keep trying to like replicate what we do. And so I think you're right. Like if it got to the Oculus level, at least for video games, you're gonna want to get, if it's important for you for like the FIFA soccer players to have faces, then it'll probably be useful as well in a video game in the future that you can tell if the water's cold or hot.
Yeah.
If the weather is cold.
Why not? Yeah. It's going to push those limits. And that's where people start to question, like, if it gets so good, like so good,
they forget
that it's indistinguishable from reality. At which point do you start to question whether or not this current reality we're already in is actually real, or if it's a simulation of some kind that we're all in.
Right. When we get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, the question will exist now. I mean, it exists now in this moment, but it's a little.
It becomes more practical
once you have the
once VR hits the point where you can't tell the difference at all. In the way it smells, feels, tastes, everything feels real and looks real, and there's no glitches, there's no small little blips in the simulation. At that point, it's reasonable to think, how do we know for sure that our reality outside of here is actually reality?
And we didn't just overlap a VR on top of our...
Or some kind of like the Matrix situation, like we were born into a simulation, because if technology keeps getting so far advanced, it may become more practical. Like what if time moves differently? If we have certain implants where you can live multiple lifetimes inside your mind, within a few minutes in the real world, why not?
Yeah,
people would all want to live inside of it. They would volunteer, sign up in droves.
Yeah, that actually makes me think of it was that philosophical point. Like, do you think that? Do you think that? Say people can do that, so you're living like multiple lives, and you can really do very, very many, since you can squeeze them all into like minutes of time, right? Screw it, right? Like, let's just squeeze it in.
We're going there.
We're going to go there. That it would come to a point, assuming that you had some sort of light or some sort of thing you had on your screen that indicated you were still in VR, just to make sure. But because I'm going to go ahead and assume it's that good.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to have some kind of trigger to show you.
That you eventually would get to the point where like you ran out of ideas and you decided to just go outside to the real outside and just sort of like let like fate happen to you.
Yeah. Like eternity would get boring after a while.
Right. Like so many. Yeah, because you're right. Because you can live it as long as you want.
Yeah. It would get old real fast. Like after 5 or 6 lifetimes, probably, you would start to just be like, I'm exhausted. Like, I don't want to have to wake up and go to work anymore, or just like exercise or whatever. Like eventually eternity, like that's why the concept of heaven has never been all that appealing to me, because no matter how good, like this simulation, let's say it's paradise, like the simulation is just pure euphoria, that it's able to trigger pure euphoria in your mind all the time. Everything you've ever wanted is at your fingertips constantly for thousands of years, seemingly. Over time, even that would start to get stale and feel not good anymore. Right. And you would crave just being able to probably crave being able to die and just stop existing.
I think it would get to that. I think you would feel similar to the way you feel when you've played a video game so many times and you've gotten so good at it, and including the video games that let you get like all the extra stuff after you beat it, so you can beat it even freaking harder and even better.
Oh yeah.
But like at one point, like like you're like, man, I've played this game. I played this game and I know exactly what's gonna happen. Like,
even though when you first started playing the game, it was like this rush and so exciting,
and you could play it for
hours and hours.
You could be in there. You'd be like, I'm living in here.
Weekends away.
I will eat these virtual fish.
At some point, once you've beat everything, it's no longer fun.
Right.
Like, it's agony almost. Like, if someone were to force you to sit down and play that game after you've beat every single thing and just keep playing, it would be boring. Boring.
Now, do you think with a variety of games, you'd get burnt out, or it would last longer? Because I guess when I was like thinking about that, I was thinking about having the same game. So like, to be fair, there's gonna be multitudes.
I get how many lifetimes of playing games would you eventually get to the point where games themselves are exhausting to even contemplate playing? Like, eventually, like if we're talking about eternity here, like you can reduce your life into, or expand it into thousands and thousands of lifetimes. You would just get tired of existing in the same way that you would get tired of playing a specific video game.
Now, how do you feel about how a game like, for example, when you take Call of Duty and you say you're in there, you're in VR, you're in Oculus mode, do you assume you're going to feel yourself in there, right? But the game is going to be straightforward. You're doing the same thing like real life paintball. How do you think something like Mario Odyssey would go? Do you think
is this on the Oculus or like a more advanced version of the Oculus?
No, let's go for it. Like let's go future Oculus.
However
much you want to feel and however much sensitivity you want to apply. How would a Mario Odyssey game go?
It would be super cool. Okay, because like let's say when you turn on the program or whatever, you are Mario.
Right. Like when you look at your hands, you're gonna have the gloves on.
You can feel your hands,
your hat.
You can feel your mustache on your face and your round nose. Right. You could just double jump and do backflips and all these things intuitively.
Right. As if you were doing it in real life. See, when I think about that, it's like that's a game that would be hard to get out of.
Yeah.
You would really get into it. Just running fast, triple jumping, wall kicking.
Yeah, because it'd be really you suddenly able to do all these things. Yeah. Like there was an episode of Black Mirror from the newest season. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen the newest season, no.
And they have this implant that they put on their temple, and they go into like a Street Fighter type game, but they are the Street Fighters, and so they know how to do all these crazy moves and stuff to fight each other, and they can feel the actual punches and everything. And I won't tell you how the full episode goes.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, do you think in an Oculus, people will feel like turning on like real blood or whatever, like real pain?
Yeah.
And come out beat up, or it'll just be like a nerve thing at the moment?
Well, when you leave the game, you would be fine.
Right. Okay.
Like, you would.
You're not going to walk out like Rocky screaming.
But if it's really happening inside your mind, it certain levels of pain would still be traumatizing. Yeah, but I feel like the game makers, depending on, but what if a hacker got in and they made it so you could
you could put limits,
feel real pain.
You could put limits on its power. But like what I'm saying is like, do you think anyone, if it were developed and you had the option that when it hit you, like you walked out in pain, do you think anybody would be like, fuck it, like let's try?
I'm sure somebody
Super Smash Bros, let's do it. All the way up to 10.
Somebody would do it. It'd be like a bragging right. Like I've played this game with all the pain meters turned all the way up.
Yo, can you imagine though too the effect it would have like playing Assassin's Creed, for example? Like if you would if it would start to like give you a persona, like you know what I'm saying?
It'll probably create a lot of psychological
that you're like, man,
issues.
I'd rather be a freaking assassin. Like after I get off of work, I'm gonna just turn into my assassin.
Yeah.
In Oculus.
And that's the thing, like you won't want to leave.
Yeah.
If it starts to feel so real and so like it allows you to be someone that like physically be somebody else.
I mean, for the exact same reason we would play a video game now or go to the movies.
Like escapism.
It's just to go there, go somewhere else. But I think you're right. Like Oculus, for me, when I think of like Oculus's maximum possibilities, because we're talking video games and filling water and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you know what though? Like, for now, I mean, because we don't exactly have vehicles besides on Mars that can really get you a good picture and a good idea, I think Oculus would be a great cheap option for traveling to places that you've never been to on Earth. Like standing in the stadium, you can have it.
Yeah.
You can really feel like you're there. You can have the same temperature.
Or down the road, weather. Mars.
No. Yeah, the planets would be obviously amazing.
You could just go walk on the moon and feel the gravity of the moon.
Jump up and down, and it would be like just scientifically accurate. Everything would feel as is. I think that would be amazing. Super capabilities for Oculus. So when ships started actually exploring even further planets, and then this is how you learn about it in school. Holy crap.
If it got to where it was really real too, like you could train to do very dangerous things and actually practice them in a safe environment where you're physically training your muscle memory to, like, let's say a wingsuit. Like, that's a dangerous thing to just learn to do your first time.
So you're practicing Oculus to
you could go into a virtual reality world and actually dive off a mountainside and wingsuit all the way down. Right. And then when you go to do it, you will have done it 100 times in VR, so you'll already be good at it. Or rock climbing, or whatever other thing you want to like learn to do, playing pool, target practice. Why not?
You know, too, like you could use it like, I mean, I guess you'd have to do it on a treadmill. But if you did have something like that, you could like take a walk or a run to the or a bike, or even a drive to the craziest places, if that's the experience you wanted to have there. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, even just have a car.
Well, they have you seen those things? They're like haptic pads where they like latch on
and
around your waist. And then they're walking on like this moving pad on the ground.
It's like a 3D thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can like sidestep and go backwards.
Mm-hmm. It swivels in all directions.
I think that'd be great.
It's so cool.
That's pretty cool, because then, I look at the fun capabilities of like, you know, not being stuck where you are, because literally you will, like, once everyone has it in their home, you will be in your home. And if it appeals to you to really travel to that place, you will go. But when Oculus is 100% like, whoa, I almost forgot, like I had to take my helmet off or whatever, my glasses off, you're gonna be like, it's gonna be like really traveling to that place when you can do that. But that's exciting. Like, I think of things like deep diving too. You're just in a submarine, or you're just free swimming deep in the ocean. You get everything minus the water pressure. It'll feel like you're in a pool instead.
Yeah, exactly.
Swimming around all crazy.
You could just swim under into the ocean.
Deepest crevice.
You just turn the infinite breath cheat code on, and you just swim down into the Marianas Trench.
Like, I would just say, like, you get everything besides the pressure and the breathing, but you'll experience it like a fish, and you'll go deep.
Yeah, or you could be a fish.
Do it as a fish.
You could be a fish and see what it feels like to be a fish.
That would be. I wonder how you would get that.
They would have to like, if
you have tentacles, how do you feel?
If they have the technology to implant into your brain the feeling of actually being there, maybe by that point in technology, they'll have the ability to subtract or measure what an octopus is feeling and thinking. Like,
possibly.
And put that but that might mess up your brain.
Yeah, it's hard too, because like it's hard for me to think that you could do that without the... Like I said, like, you have 8 tentacles. We're used to having 2 arms, 2 legs, but
they would basically have to take an octopus's consciousness,
and make it,
put it into your brain.
Yeah, because the rest doesn't matter. You're just gonna move it with your.
We'll let Black Mirror handle this one, and then we'll know.
We'll come back to that.
But there's you can't go down this road without thinking about, like, something I wonder about is at the point when you have like VR porn, or like some kind of
like physical interaction
simulation. At the point where you can go into a VR world and have all that feel completely real.
Right.
Will people still
live a real life?
Have like couples in real life?
In real life.
Like if you have a virtual person,
a virtual relationship,
let's say they're your perfect match, physically, personality wise, in every way.
And you could certainly design
with
it
the snap
way.
of a finger. You can go into this world and they're right there all the time. Do you think that will hurt people's relationships in the real world?
You know, it's really hard to say how what limits people will take a synthesized version of something, because we seem to be okay with it if it's convenient. But then there's a lot of us who always want the real thing, you know. And so I think it may be enough. I think it will be certainly a permanent option for some people. They'll see it as a permanent option.
But then there will be people that just
just to try it out, and it's not for them, or just to try it out.
And the Christians will find some Bible verse to say that you can't
say this is fake. Well, yeah, I mean, I think with Catholicism, it's if you thought it, you did it. So, so yeah, you'll break that rule. But yeah, that's interesting. I mean, or even just for having regular friends, like having a friend group, people who have inside jokes with you.
It might be great.
Do you think people would? For
therapeutic reasons, like people that are really lonely.
Yeah. It's like they can hang out with my friends.
They can have friends in this seemingly real place.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting way to use that. Mm-hmm. Because if people did have that kind of problem, if that's just what they needed, someone who could tolerate who they are, then they could be whoever they wanted and have any friend, because you could really have anyone just like who you are. Because it'd be
you could program them to like who you are.
But I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, it's a video. You're in a Oculus, like it's a pastime. Yeah. I mean, when you're playing like something like Animal Crossing, you know those animals aren't really your friends, but they're your friends in the game.
The question is, and I guess we could examine the current psychology of what video games do to people to see it in an advanced way. But the question is, when people can have all of these things at their fingertips, like the perfect life, like the perfect friends, the perfect partner, whatever it is, the perfect job.
Be a millionaire.
You could be the all-star of the NBA, like whatever you want. Right. When you have to, get out to go to the bathroom or get out to go to work the next day.
Are you going to hate that?
Are you going to be so miserable with your normal life? Like, are you going to be completely depressed and awful? Or will the knowing that you're just going to go back home and jump back in, will that keep you going then? Because, but normal, like let's say you lose the ability to play these games or go into these virtual worlds. Once you've done it for long enough, you won't be able to go back to your normal life and feel happy, I don't think.
I think I'm also thinking about the mind trip aspect of that. So like, you know how you can live your life like as fast as you want, like a whole life in like, let's say 30 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. How much like effect to the mind would this have? Like, you take this off to go to the bathroom, but that's real time. But now you're going back to having already lived 500 years. But like, it's because your brain will have been 500 years old when you came out of this world and went to the bathroom. How would that work in your brain, in your mind?
It would, yeah. It might cause severe brain damage. Like this is all stuff that
disorders.
But think of the practical applications.
The practical.
You could learn trigonometry from start to finish in a couple seconds in the real world, and it would have felt like you went to an entire college course over several months. But it just takes a couple seconds, and suddenly you know it all. So
I think that's cool too, and you're right. And like surgical training, if AI hasn't taken over, but like any sort of profession, and all of them actually. Like let's say you can get real life experience.
Let's say a doctor in a hospital didn't know how to perform a specific kind of surgery, like a very rare case of like this guy needs surgery stat and he's about to die, and no doctor within 100 miles knows how to perform that surgery. One of those doctors could just go lay in a bed and put one of these things on their brain and quick learn how to do that specific surgery in a couple seconds, and then stand up and walk in there and perform the surgery perfectly.
Just have like years of practice in like 5 minutes. Yeah.
That would be really
that'd
cool.
be crazy. I mean, that I'd like to wonder what would happen when you have almost nearly universal access to some sort of Oculus, whether it was like a simple version or in an affluent country you'd have the better version.
Mm-hmm.
But what effect that would have on society? Like, for example, let's assume you still have to work, whatever job you have,
mm-hmm.
but you also have a bomb Oculus at home, the kind we've been mentioning. You can visit Mars. You can go as far as you want. Mm-hmm. As far as, let's just say that as far as our technological limits have let us know things. Where people would go as far as talking to each other really human to human outside of Oculus, if we would just, because I could probably just hit you up while I'm in it and tell you what I'm doing, right? Or meet you wherever you're doing.
We could meet inside, physically in the virtual world.
Do you think we'd get to a point where we would always just meet up there, or do you think we would always decide to go, all right, cool, well, you want to go to Chandler's and have a game night, for example, outside of Oculus? Or do you think we would have a game night in Oculus?
I think we would have a game night inside.
Oh my gosh.
Why ever leave your house?
No, I mean, and that's what I mean. Like, not that why ever leave, because I mean, I guess you could perhaps have groceries delivered, but what I was saying is that our life is that's why I wanted to keep the normality of our life now plus the advanced Oculus.
Yeah.
So that we know that we still have to go out and get groceries.
It might be that would be something at first that may happen. Mm-hmm. But as time goes on, I think people would get more and more. There would be too many benefits in the real world of not meeting up in person, when you can just flick this on and we're all there, whether that's in your friends on the East Coast or in a different country.
Yeah, but long distance is obviously
but no one's long distance anymore.
Yeah,
if you can be right there with them.
Yeah, but
if it feels real.
I'm still considering that we're all like living in places like these where it's just like units or houses, and we have neighbors and stuff. That's what I mean. If we do live this close,
would we still hang out?
Yeah, would we still hang out no matter how advanced and how quickly and how easily we could just connect, see each other's whole body, actually sit here in this room, even though we knew we were in Oculus? Do you think we would ever just want to actually meet in this room for reals?
I think it would be a lot less. We would meet up a lot less.
Like, you're saying you would want to meet up a lot less, or it would just because of because of how casual and fast it is.
No more traffic accidents.
Right. A lot of our meetings would just be quickly like, well, I was already on Oculus, so we'll talk for a little while here.
Yeah. If you're already
if you're already
in the virtual world at our friend's house,
right,
which feels completely real, right. The walls are the same, the couches are the same, the smells are the same. Right. Why turn it off and go drive 20 minutes to be right back where you just were? I think, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here,
right.
But I think, at the very least, people would start hanging out in person way, way less. Much like, people don't get together as much and play games. They just get together on an Xbox Live party and play games or things like that.
Maybe. It also seems like people just may not carry around as many close friends because,
we've got just 30 seconds left. Do you want to do another round once we're done here? We can go another 20 minutes.
I guess I do have a little bit more time.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do a few more minutes.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with more of this juicy conversation. Walk through the open door for me. All right, welcome back to the Millennial Experience.
Welcome, everyone.
What were we talking about?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to clarify. Personally, just for me, and I'm going to go ahead and assume I have the freaking top of the top Oculus. Okay. Maximized. Even the weather, it'll rain.
Yeah.
And lightning will seem dangerous and sound dangerous.
Do you picture it as still being cartoony around you, or like
no? Like if you want to say this and have the conversation about if we would visit our friends, even with this right now, looking around you level of Oculus. Honestly, for me, because sometimes I can be the real thing kind of person, and honestly, more than that is, I think my level of friendship, at least the way I feel about my group of friends, the people I use the word friends with, I think the level of the relationship I have with them is the reason I would still want to feel like I was really on the real couch, really in front of my friends actually. And like I said, despite the fact that you could literally just assume that you can make it feel exactly like this, mm-hmm. and do a podcast inside of VR, which I still think that the fact that my friends are people that I really like, and that I know that I can really see them, so long as the outside world wasn't all radiated from
whatever nuclear
war, I know that I would still even if it was mostly seeing you guys on VR or Oculus, mm-hmm. I think I would still crave that occasional real physical visit,
which may be the same reason that some people still have physical relationships with like intimate partners, is just for that same reason, like the level of connection that they had with this person before all this stuff became real. Mm-hmm. But then what about the generation that grows up with this as their normal?
I think for them it'll be much more normal in the way that, like, for example,
because that's where they'll meet their friends.
Yeah, like, do you remember, for example, when you had to remember your friends' phone numbers because you had to like push it on the buttons? Mm-hmm. Okay, now compare that to having your cellular phone, where you were easily and even talking on them more on it, mm-hmm. in Oculus.
Just texting them constantly.
Texting, yeah, sorry. I started thinking about Oculus. And you started texting them more, and I can call you definitely a lot more, and we can settle things a lot more over the phone rather than, I got to go talk to Luke about something, I got to go see him at his house, like pre-phones. Mm-hmm. I think we do a lot more communicating, but we still see each other. Despite having phones, despite the fact if I wanted to talk to you about something, I could just call you. But there's something nice about seeing you. Now, that's not exactly the same as Oculus, right? Because you would feel that you were physically there.
Yeah.
But I think it's the knowledge about it. You knowing that you're there. Does that matter to you, or does it not matter to you? And I think for me, it would matter to me. I think I would always want to be conscious of the fact I was an Oculus.
Yeah,
because I don't think I would probably use it a lot, but I don't think I would. As long as the world outside was still beautiful like this,
yeah,
I think I would still crave the real outside world.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just thinking, Tinder would be a completely different thing.
Oh, with an Oculus thing?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be almost real dating, right?
Well, it would be
just
real dating
the herpes.
with no consequences. Yeah. No STDs, no sexual assault or physical abuse or anything like that.
True.
You could actually go out and hook up with someone randomly and have there be no consequences if it doesn't work out, or if it'd be a much safer way to date.
With that being said, do you think people would use avatars and not look like the way they were born?
Ooh, good question. Yeah. Good question. Maybe. Probably. Almost definitely, yes.
I don't think I would. I'd rather.
But what?
You can look. If I'm just living a freaking living la vida loca, yeah, sure. I'll do an avatar.
And what if you could just take like your biceps and make them just a little bit bigger, or like if you don't like your nose?
Yeah, no, I know. You're right.
Adjust it slightly.
At what point?
It's like putting makeup on.
At what point did you make slight adjustments, and at what point are you like just
a different person?
Yeah, exactly.
You could just like with a dial change your skin tone just a little bit more tan.
Actually, you know what though? think about the effect that would have on your ego within Oculus. Do you think that the effect on your ego would carry out into the real world when you got out? That confidence?
I think it would be worse.
You would come out and be like, I'm freaking.
It kind of depends on the type of person, but I think if you go in and you're just like jacked, like you are Dwayne the Rock Johnson, and then you come out and you're overweight and, you know, scrawny or whatever it is, like, yeah, but it might make you feel really bad about yourself in the real world after getting to experience something so vastly different. But I don't know. It would also mean, I mean, processing it as if we're really there and it feels real, like you're actually in that body, would be a lot different than like playing a video game where you're, you know, a UFC fighter or something, and you feel strong and
right. No, and I'm talking about being in your Tinder Oculus arena, where you make slight adjustments, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, if you're dating, are you dating looking like yourself, or are you basically in a dating video game and you can look however you want? And is that really the same? It can't be, because you don't look like yourself and you're not acting like yourself either.
Right.
You're playing a video game.
Yeah.
So you would so if it was real dating, real virtual dating, you would have to look like yourself, and you could not do any fuckery.
If you wanted it to be meaningful in any way.
Yes, right.
Yeah. But if it's just a game,
then it's crazy, because then almost it's like,
you don't know
where's the I don't know. I mean,
you don't know who you're meeting. It's like a chat room now, except for in reality, where you don't know if it's like some guy living in his mom's basement somewhere who's just his avatar is some girl that you're out on a date with.
Exactly. Yeah. That's sort of.
There would have to be something set in place to make you be able to tell the difference.
I think it'd be two separate services. One would be for the people who would like to meet someone, and this is really convenient to actually feel like you're holding them or going to the movies with them. If you're like in seven places in the world, everything else would have to be just a video game. In
that VR, there could be people that have whole relationships. What if you could have a family together,
like get married and stuff? Yeah. See how it goes.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if it's all right, then do it in real life.
Yeah. Or why even do it in real life if you can just have that you come home from work just like you would be there to see your family, you just plug into the Oculus.
Right. And since you could go on vacation and stuff, you can make it any circumstance when you plugged in. You could be like, oh, it's the weekend, even though it was Wednesday.
Yeah. You can have your kids together. You could have virtual children together that there's no consequences in raising them. You can program them to be however they are. They're not whiny little brats.
You're right. With all of this, it's like there seems to be a lot of utility when it comes to some of the conscious comfort for people. Or like, I was mentioning experience where you do some training. You mentioned dating, where it would kind of, it'd be nice to practice without real embarrassment, right?
Yeah.
In case you wanted to be good dating in real life outside of Oculus, Oculus would be a nice practice. Yeah.
A ton.
Yeah. Get used to it. You download like real ways people interact. Although now you're talking about having some really advanced like human behavioral like software.
But it wouldn't even have to be software. You could be dating other people that are also plugged into the program.
Oh no, yeah.
With no consequences.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. So it'd be like almost as if like you're dating someone right now, but like if it goes really bad or you say something embarrassing, you could just take your goggles off and you're not even there.
You're like, my house is on fire. I gotta go.
That's
just unplugged.
Dude, that's like ultimate ghosting. That's like.
And then if someone leaves mid-date, then AI takes over and finishes the date for them, so that you don't get stood up.
But with no lag, so that there's no way they know.
Yep. And AI would be so advanced by this point that it would have been reading all of your personality traits, your mannerisms, your everything, and it could just match them. Like that's what happens on video games, like on Rocket League, for instance. If you're playing and suddenly someone leaves, the car that car's still there. It's just AI takes over and finishes the game based on their play style.
I guess so. I mean, I like that idea though. I mean, that where you can go out and virtually date. But yeah, you would have to make the distinction if you were gonna go in and literally people could be like centaurs and you could have sex with them. Yeah. That would be separate from virtual.
That's a different
date. Yeah, that's a different
world.
Oh my gosh.
And there could be. I mean, people are gonna use it for really creepy things too. Like, what if your stalker programs you into their dating app and starts a life with you and in this virtual world, and it's completely just like you? They could, that's really creepy.
Or if they like were able to hack the software to make it feel like you really took your helmet off and make it seem like you just jumped into real world, but Ooh. Everything was set up, because it could,
and you're still in,
because it could see what the inside of your house looked like and make you feel like and you would still be in. You're
just programmed to feel like you're taking off.
But that's more of an issue for the super advanced Oculus.
Yeah.
So now you're thinking
we're a few years away from that.
Yeah.
Oculus needs to sponsor this podcast, I think. With how many times we've said.
Definitely. I think applications. In fact, like looking at your guitar right now, I mean, what a great way to learn how to play guitar in a few minutes.
Everyone would be a master.
To be a master
at
everything. You'd have enough time.
You could learn everything yourself.
That I think for me, that's one of the best things, because I remember when I read Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors by Carl Sagan, he mentioned that there were people who were alive who could function normal lives the way that other people use 8 hours of sleep to function normally. They could do that with 4 hours. And he was saying like he was jealous of those people because like he can think of so many things he could do with all the extra time. Well, Oculus would basically do that for you. Problem. Yeah, you could read that whole book in 5 minutes rather than going, fuck, I hope nobody freaking calls me for like an hour right now because it's the only time I have to read this book. I'm going to try to read as much as I can. Mm-hmm. It sucks to have to read books like that.
No interruptions.
Yeah.
You can just
finish it.
Yeah.
Finish it in 5 minutes. The whole book.
The only
real
thing,
life 5 minutes.
The only thing, there would have to be some kind of haptic suit, because the thing that I'm seeing as a problem to this type of thing is your muscle memory. Wouldn't your muscles have to physically be moving in order to gain muscle memory? So if it's just in the simulation that you're moving your hand to learn to play guitar, or would you be, there have to be some kind of haptic, like you have a wooden guitar in your hand and there's a suit that's making your fingers feel the same way as it is in the system or something.
I mean, I was assuming the Ready Player One where the suit itself, the way it felt, could inside of you make you feel like you had the ridges of the guitar touching you, and you would feel like you had to make the room.
But again, I think the type of system we're talking about would probably be more like inside your mind, like a chip,
like the Neuralink level
that is simulating all of this inside your brain. So you're not actually physically moving. You're laying in like
that one for me seems a little bit more Wall-E-istic, where you're like ashamed of that.
Yeah.
Where like, this is what humans are doing now. And it's like you came from traveling across, like crossing rivers and like climbing up mountains, and now like look what we're doing.
Yeah.
You're just laying here and living like, I mean, it's great. Yeah. But like, it makes me think you're right. Like how would we keep a healthy physiology?
Well, let's say, I was just picturing restaurants, like, let's say, because work outside of this world would be very strange and different, like the types of jobs that exist. So let's say there was a fancy restaurant where the employees, they just plug into the server right in their living room, and they pop up in the restaurant where they're a waiter, and there's people that come in and they come to the restaurant in the virtual world. There's some kind of sustenance thing that's
to give them the experience of eating.
Yeah, like, and that
even if they were already full, they could kind of go, just like block it and have fake. Well, I mean, they're not really eating anything, so they can have as much as they want.
Yeah, and instead of chefs, there would be some kind of programmer who's able to program all these flavors in a specific way that people are just like, man, he's the best. We got to go eat at that program's place, or whatever.
Oh, like you do bits that taste good?
Yeah. Like
I mean, yeah, but that means they would have access to your Neuralink.
Well, it'll all be connected, man. At the point where we're in a world like this, there will be no such thing as privacy. Not even inside your own mind.
That's what I'm thinking. That's why I don't. Yeah, that's why privacy anymore. That's why I prefer high tech Oculus rather than
that version.
Because you're right, you're hackable now. Yeah, if you're connected, and it's like,
and there will be laws passed.
People feel weird about their phones. Like, think about, I'm on the grid. Like, I gotta break this.
Yeah, it'll be worse. Except for the grid will be your mind. Your mind will be on the grid.
Yeah, your mind will be on the grid.
Once if the neural link becomes where we don't communicate with verbally anymore, it's all done inside our mind and in this supposed virtual realm.
Yeah.
At that point, there's no such thing as privacy.
Right. I think, though, honestly, to me personally, privacy would be valuable enough for me to not make that choice. However much easier things were, it's like, no, the fact that my phone can be hacked and the amount of like privacy, like private things you keep on your phone,
but
that itself is already discomforting.
You say that now, but there was a lot of people that probably said that about cell phones. That now, imagine.
I never thought twice about having a cell phone.
I know, but there were a lot of people. There were people that were like, this is the end of the world. There's cell phone. They're trying to hack into our lives. I'm never getting a cell phone. And maybe they never did. But
Social Security gave that fear too.
Yeah, that's true. But at a certain point, it's going to be such an intrinsic part of society that the future generations that are brought up with this as a normal thing, like
Neuralink, yeah,
they'll just jump right in, and it'll just become a part of normal society.
If we're saying that the same risks that exist for your cell phone exist for a Neuralink, I wouldn't do it if it was going to be easy to be hacked, but I would do it if it was just simply advanced enough that it's like, well, because it's so connected with the physical fibers of your brain, you're not really ever really hackable, like controllable.
Yeah.
Your memories aren't really changeable, You'll still be you.
Yeah.
But it's hard to think. There's smart people, and how is it gonna work? You know what I'm saying? Is it just gonna be bits, zeros and ones? It seems hackable to me. I think it just seems hackable, and like to what level, to what extent? Like, the however dangerous that would be to the level of what your capacity is to do stuff.
Mm.
Whatever you could do, that's what could happen to you.
Because they could essentially control you.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I was like, hopefully it just physically is impossible to take control. You can only make someone see something or something.
Yeah. There would be a lot of people impersonating other people. Yeah. If you could program yourself to look, sound, and feel just like someone else, you could jump into this world and pretend to be them. Go over to their friend's house and get their credit card numbers or whatever. Like, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of negative applications to all of this stuff. Right. And hopefully the people that create these things will have fail-safes in place. But eventually the government's going to get their sticky little fingers into our minds. Just like they're trying to pass laws to where they can read everybody's text messages.
Yeah, or have access to your recent calls.
Yeah, just listen to your phone. It's like they're going to be
like, well, what did you recently think? Oh, we think that's bad.
Yeah. They're like, well, we have to stop terrorism, so we've got to be able to read people's thoughts. Yeah. It's only a matter of time.
Like Minority Report.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy, man. No. Let's run it back. Actually, I was just thinking, like running back to the conversation about visiting your friends or not. How much detail do you think would be? Like, let's say I'm like, let's just virtually do game night tonight, guys, and everybody texts all right. Let's say we said that in Oculus.
Okay.
And we do it in Oculus. It's like, how much detail are we talking? Like, if I get up and walk around the room, like,
it feels just like this.
Will the writing and stuff that they had that day written on the kitchen table, will I see that? Mm-hmm. Or will it simulate just some replacement?
it'll be whatever they already created in that virtual room. So if in the VR they had written on a note on the counter earlier that day, you would see that note. But in their real world outside, you wouldn't see what's actually in their house. Because all you're seeing is the virtual version of their house in this Oculus world.
Right. See, that's what makes me want to go visit them in real life.
Yeah. But I think it might cause a lot of... Yeah, people's houses would probably look pretty boring in the real world.
Yeah.
They wouldn't probably clean as much. Like,
oh, you think they'd set it up and like just do it up like in Animal Crossing? Yeah. So when people were over, it's like, well, I live in a mansion. Like,
yeah.
You can live anywhere you want.
Yeah, and there's gonna be people that just don't spend physical time with their friends. Like, their living room is just going to be these haptic beds where they plug in and lay down, and
that's what they do.
They walk straight to them after work.
But then we're gonna but then we have a problem because you got to keep the physical shape of this person. They have to have some sort of movement.
Right. Well, they're still getting up and going. They've got someone's got to at least be bringing them food and keeping the lights on and keeping the water flowing.
That's where I become ashamed of the technology when we're doing that.
Yeah, it feels really wrong.
Yeah, it's like, so this delivery person, like when they get off, are they gonna go into Oculus too and have someone like bring food to them, even though it's just virtual?
Absolutely,
in real life? Like,
they absolutely will.
That's crazy.
And I was thinking about what it would be like for the wealthiest class, because if people still have to work and make some form of, it'll probably be Bitcoin or digital currency at this point. What is it going to look like? Like, what's the wage gap going to look like if there is one? I think it'll be, people will pay, the more wealthy people will have the ability to stay in this virtual world for more of their life than the more poor.
Oh, because you pay to play?
Yeah, like if internet just keeps becoming more and more expensive, and even to use this server, it's going to become more and more expensive. And, you've got to still keep your house in the real world safe. Maybe a bodyguard to watch your body.
Your physical
while you're
body
inside.
needs to be sheltered.
Like, there's going to be key elements that while you're inside of this thing, your life on the outside has to be powered somewhere. And that's going to be with money. So the wealthy people may be able to just plug in and never unplug. They have their waste gets drained out of this bed.
The people who can afford.
Their muscles get worked by some machine while they're in there.
That they could afford. Right.
Well, they have a bodyguard.
And then you'll have other levels of people who work an 8-hour job, and then they get into.
And they can afford to plug in for 30 minutes a night or something,
Yeah, over the weekend instead of going out.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, hopefully it's not pay to play. I'll watch ads.
Hopefully by the time this becomes a thing, the wage gap will have been eliminated by smart politics.
Yeah, because currency, that is such a primitive like thing, isn't it? Like for humans who are supposed to be like, we're supposed to be like smarter than that, But instead, we want to play the game of like, the only species on Earth that pays to live here. Yeah. I mean, come on. How did we freaking get into this mess? Like, so hopefully when you have technology that advanced, like for me, my assumption is always that society hopefully grew up with better education. But honestly, sometimes it always feels like it's just like a handful of people who are making these breakthroughs, and it happens occasionally throughout history.
Yeah.
Rather than
Isaac
all
Newton,
the time.
Tesla, people. Once in a while, there's a really, really smart, affluent person that makes a lot of changes, and that's what skyrockets progress.
What do you think? Do you think politics will still be a thing if people are Oculusing? Let's say Oculus Living is just highly popular. It's done as much as people play video games now or watch movies now or do Tinder now or online date now. As much as people do that now. But everything is Oculus now.
I don't know.
How do you think politics would
Someone's got to keep the real world running. That's the thing. There needs to be leaders of some kind.
Someone's not going around slitting throats while people are...
Yeah, there's got to be a police force on the outside protecting the people that are laying in their beds. Maybe those will be robots, though. Maybe we won't be in charge anymore at this point. Maybe all of the politics and the policing and the waste management, the food delivery, all of those things might be done by robots.
Yeah, that's why when you introduce Oculus and you mention the economy, that's what makes me think, like, if there would be a shift, because why do you need an economy? You have robots doing everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what Andrew Yang was, like, his ideas were pushing straight. Not that they're exclusively his ideas, but with the whole UBI thing, once enough people lose jobs where there just doesn't need to be people doing any jobs anymore, then it's all going to be run by AI. And people will be able to just plug in to this virtual world and have everything else on the outside taken care of while they live in paradise in this. But the nice thing is too, the robots and the AI can keep the environment clean. They can keep the environment running because they're programmed to do it.
Because you won't need so much factory and farming and just land use for just like just breaking the CO2 out of the ground and putting it in the air. There won't be any of that.
Nope.
There won't be any need.
They can just pump in nutrients like the most efficient way possible, and our brains can simulate it in the AI. We can,
as food
to eat dinner, we can put the helmet on and then simulate our nutrient cubes or whatever to taste like the most exquisite meal in the world. Right. And you're getting all the nutrients you need. You're tasting it however you want in your mouth.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
We've got a minute and a half left, so we'll start winding down.
Yeah. I'm hoping that space travel wouldn't be affected when we decide to just stay in Oculus, because what if we just decided like that was the only thing that humans could really do now that Earth had a new stewardship, and then when the last person left, the robots, they just kept the
Earth going. Just on their own.
As if they were the ones who had been there the whole time.
If their AI reaches a certain level, you could almost call it sentience in a way.
I mean, if you can get there. But
so
then
they
might want to live and leave as well.
Yeah. Who knows?
Be like, man, this place.
But that's a conversation for
a long conversation
next week.
Too.
We can talk about that, because I have strong feelings about AI.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to discuss.
Yeah, it's fun to discuss.
But anyways, thank you so much for listening. If you made it all the way through this podcast, this has been the Millennial Experience. We are just two average millennials living in the United States talking about interesting things that we think are interesting. So take all your love and set it free. Hold a little space for